a small town engulfed in a historic storm. Amid the downpour, a black delivery man struggling to care for his sick mother encounters a desperate family whose daughter is about to miss her flight to Harvard. Without hesitation, he puts her on his battered motorcycle and braves the perilous road to the airport, losing his job in the process. He never imagines this bold act will shake the town and change his and his mother's lives forever. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. It's a Tuesday afternoon in Detroit and the city has been hammered by storms for 7 straight days. We're talking biblical level rain here. The kind that turns streets into rivers and makes you question whether you should start building an ark. The local news is calling it the storm of the decade, and they're not being dramatic. Marcus Johnson is riding his beat-up Honda motorcycle through the flooded streets, his delivery bag secured under a tarp that's seen better days. Water is seeping through every seam of his rain gear, but he's pushing through because he desperately needs this job. Living in a cramped rented room with his 63-year-old mother Dorothy, every single dollar matters. Marcus isn't your typical 30-year-old. While his friends from high school are posting LinkedIn updates about promotions and new cars, he's been the sole caretaker for his mother for the past 12 years. His motorcycle isn't a hobby or a weekend toy, it's his lifeline, his office, his entire world rolled into 2 wheels and an engine that protests every morning but somehow keeps running. He's 3 deliveries into his 5 delivery day, checking his phone for the next address when he spots something that makes him pull over to the curb. In front of a rundown house in Riverside, one of Detroit's poorest neighborhoods, a family of 3 is standing in the pouring rain next to what looks like their entire life packed into suitcases. And they look absolutely desperate. There's Robert Thompson, 45, still wearing his factory uniform from the night shift, his work boots caked with mud. His wife Susan, 42, who cleans office buildings downtown and whose hands are permanently stained from industrial cleaning chemicals. And their daughter Emily, 18, who should be the happiest person in the world right now. Instead, she's sobbing uncontrollably while clutching what looks like an official document against her chest. Marcus kills his engine and walks over, water squishing in his boots with every step. "You folks okay? Need some help?" That's when Robert Thompson breaks down completely and tells him the story that will haunt Marcus for the rest of his life. Emily Thompson has just received a full scholarship to Harvard Law School. Let that sink in for a moment. A kid from one of Detroit's poorest neighborhoods, whose parents work multiple jobs just to keep food on the table, whose high school doesn't even have a proper library, has somehow earned her way into one of the most prestigious universities in America. She's been working toward this since she was 12, Robert says, his voice cracking with pride and desperation. 3 jobs through high school, straight A's, volunteer work at the community center. She wrote her college essay about wanting to be a lawyer so she could help families like ours. For 3 years the Thompson family scraped together every penny they could find. Susan worked double shifts at the office building, sometimes pulling 16-hour days. Robert took on weekend construction jobs even though his back was already shot from 20 years at the auto plant. Emily worked at Mickey's Diner after school and on weekends, saving every tip and turning down every invitation to hang out with friends because she had to work. They sold Robert's truck, the only valuable thing they owned, to buy Emily's plane ticket to Boston. They pawned Susan's wedding ring to pay for her dorm room deposit. They ate rice and beans for months to save money for her textbooks. The scholarship required Emily to be on campus for mandatory orientation, today. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today before 6 p.m. Miss it, and the scholarship goes to the next kid on the waiting list. No exceptions, no extensions, no sob stories accepted. And because of this storm, this relentless city-stopping, dream-crushing storm, Emily's original flight Monday morning was canceled. The replacement flight Tuesday morning was canceled. The bus to Chicago where she could catch another flight, also canceled due to flooding. "We've called every taxi company in the city," Susan says, her voice breaking as she shows Marcus her phone with its dozens of unanswered calls. "Uber, Lyft, everyone. Nobody's running routes to the airport because half the highways are underwater. They've tried everything. Called distant relatives who might have cars, begged neighbors, even considered hitchhiking before realizing how dangerous that would be for an 18-year-old girl. Marcus looks at Emily, who's still clutching that Harvard acceptance letter like it's the most precious thing in the world, and something deep inside him clicks. Maybe it's the way her parents are looking at him like he might be their last hope. Maybe it's the desperate determination in Emily's eyes. Or maybe it's something deeper, something that takes us back 12 years to a decision Marcus made that changed the trajectory of his entire life. 12 years ago, Marcus Johnson was Emily Thompson. Not literally, of course, but in every way that mattered. He was 18 years old, valedictorian of Roosevelt High School, with a full academic scholarship to the University of Michigan's prestigious engineering program. His guidance counselor told him he had the kind of mind that could design bridges that lasted centuries, buildings that touched the sky, maybe even work on space stations. Marcus had dreams as big as the Motor City itself. He was going to be the first person in his family to graduate from college. He was going to buy his mother a house with a garden where she could grow the tomatoes she was always talking about. He was going to prove that kids from the hood could build more than just walls around their hearts. Then his father James decided that being a husband and father was too much responsibility and walked out exactly 3 days before Marcus was supposed to start college. Just disappeared one night, leaving behind a closet full of empty hangers and a family drowning in debt. Dorothy Johnson had been working at Riverside Textile Manufacturing for 15 years, but the years of standing on concrete floors for 10 hours a day, breathing cotton dust and lifting heavy machinery parts had taken their toll. She'd been hiding her heart condition from Marcus for months, not wanting to worry him during his senior year, taking unprescribed heart medication she bought from a coworker because she couldn't afford to see a doctor. But the night before Marcus was supposed to leave for college, the stress of James leaving and the physical demands of her job finally caught up with her. Dorothy collapsed in their tiny kitchen while making Marcus his goodbye dinner. Marcus spent that entire night in the emergency room at Detroit General, his dorm room keys in one hand and his mother's medical bills in the other. The doctors said Dorothy needed surgery, expensive surgery that their insurance would only partially cover. She would need months of recovery time, someone to drive her to follow-up appointments, help with her medications, assist with daily tasks that would be impossible with her weakened heart. His high school friends told him to go to college anyway. She'll understand, they said. You can't put your life on hold forever. His guidance counselor called him personally, begging him to reconsider. Marcus, you're throwing away a full ride to one of the best engineering programs in the country. Your mother wouldn't want this. But when Marcus looked at his mother lying in that hospital bed, hooked up to monitors that beeped with every heartbeat, he knew what he had to do. The woman who had worked herself nearly to death to give him a chance at college needed him more than his dreams needed fulfilling. He called the University of Michigan admissions office from the hospital payphone and withdrew from the program. The next day he bought a used Honda motorcycle with the money he'd saved for textbooks and started delivering food across Detroit to pay for his mother's medical expenses. For 12 years Marcus has watched his high school classmates graduate from college, get married, buy houses, start families, post vacation photos on Facebook, and he's never once complained. Not once. Every morning he kisses his mother goodbye, fires up his motorcycle and hits the streets of Detroit, delivering packages and food and whatever else people need transported from one place to another. Dorothy always tells him the same thing as he heads out the door. Marcus, you're the best man I know. You've got a heart bigger than this whole city. Someday all this goodness you put into the world is going to come back to you tenfold. Marcus never believed her, until today. Standing there in the rain, looking at Emily Thompson and her parents, Marcus sees himself at 18. He sees the scholarship he never got to use, the dreams he never got to chase, the life he never got to live. He sees his younger self making a choice between his own future and someone he loved. But more than that, he sees an opportunity to make sure another kid doesn't lose their shot at something bigger. I'll take her, he says quietly. The Thompson family stares at him like he's just spoken in a foreign language. What? I'll take her to the airport, on my bike. Now let's be completely clear about what Marcus is offering here. Detroit Metro Airport is 40 miles away through some of the most dangerous highway conditions Detroit has seen in years. It's still pouring rain with visibility near zero. The roads are flooded, slick and treacherous. Taking a motorcycle, especially an old one with questionable brakes, on the highway in these conditions isn't just dangerous, it's potentially suicidal. Sir, we can't ask you to. Robert starts, but Marcus cuts him off. You're not asking, I'm offering. Emily can take a small backpack with the absolute essentials, documents, maybe one change of clothes. You can ship the rest of her stuff later once she's settled. Susan Thompson grabs Marcus's rain-soaked sleeve. I don't understand. Why would you do this? You don't even know us. You could be killed out there. Marcus looks directly at Emily, who's staring at him like he's just offered to donate his organs to save her life. And in a way, maybe he has. Because 12 years ago, someone should have taken that risk for me, and they didn't get the chance. That's when Marcus does something that perfectly captures who he is as a person. He pulls out his phone and calls his boss, David Miller, right there in front of the Thompson family. Dave, I need to push my last 2 deliveries to tomorrow. Are you out of your goddamn mind, Johnson? It's Tuesday, our biggest day of the week. You've got the Henderson Electronics run and the medical supply delivery to St. Mary's. You don't finish your route, you're fired. Marcus looks at Emily, then at his phone, then at the rain that shows no signs of stopping. Then I guess I'm fired, Dave. He hangs up without another word. Emily Thompson starts crying again, but this time it's not from despair. I can't let you lose your job for me. You're not letting me do anything, Marcus says, already walking toward his motorcycle. I'm choosing to do this, big difference. What happens next is like something out of an action movie, except it's real life and the stakes couldn't possibly be higher. Marcus spends 10 minutes meticulously checking his bike, tire pressure, gas tank, brakes, chain tension. Everything needs to be perfect because there's absolutely no room for error on this journey. He gives Emily his spare helmet and his only completely dry rain jacket, leaving himself with a torn windbreaker that's already soaked through. You ever been on a motorcycle before? He asks as Emily straps on the helmet. Never in my life, Emily admits, her voice muffled by the helmet. Just hold on tight to my waist and lean with me when we turn. Don't fight the movement. If you resist, we'll go down. And Emily, yeah, don't let go. No matter what happens out there, don't let go. As they're about to leave, Robert Thompson grabs Marcus's shoulder with both hands. His factory worker grip is strong, desperate. Son, I don't know who you are, or where you came from, but what you're doing right now, this is everything to us. Everything. Emily is our whole world. Marcus nods, understanding the weight of what he's carrying. Not just a passenger, but an entire family's dreams balanced on the back of a motorcycle that's older than some college freshman. I'll get her there, he promises. The ride itself is absolutely brutal from the very first mile. Visibility is so poor that Marcus can barely see the taillights of cars 20 feet ahead. The highways are flooded in several places, forcing him to take back roads and surface streets that add precious time to their journey. Twice, the bike nearly slides out from under them on the slick pavement, and Marcus has to use every skill he's learned in 12 years of riding to keep them upright. Emily is terrified, clinging to Marcus so tightly he can barely breathe. But she doesn't complain, doesn't ask him to slow down or turn back, doesn't even speak except when Marcus checks on her. You okay back there? Marcus shouts over the wind and rain and traffic noise. Just get me there. Emily shouts back, her voice barely audible, please just get me there. The rain is coming down so hard that Marcus's visor fogs up completely, forcing him to flip it open and take the weather directly in his face. His hands are numb from gripping the handlebars. His back aches from hunching forward to cut through the wind. His clothes are so soaked that he's probably carrying an extra 20 pounds of water. But he keeps going. Halfway through the journey, disaster strikes. They're cruising at 55 miles per hour on a stretch of highway that's relatively clear when the bike starts sputtering and losing power. The engine coughs, struggles, and then starts running rough. Marcus manages to coast to a gas station off the next exit, his heart absolutely sinking as he realizes what's probably wrong. Water in the engine. What's happening? Emily asks, panic creeping into her voice as they roll to a stop under the station's overhang. Give me 5 minutes, Marcus says, popping the seat to access his tools. For 5 agonizing minutes, with Emily watching the clock on her phone and both of them knowing her Harvard dreams are potentially evaporating with each passing second, Marcus works on his motorcycle in the pouring rain. He removes the air filter, which is completely soaked. He checks the spark plugs, which are wet but not fouled. He clears water from the intake and dries the plugs with his already soaked shirt. Come on, baby, he whispers to the bike as he kicks the starter. Don't fail me now. The engine turns over on the second try, coughing to life like a patient recovering from pneumonia. They arrive at Detroit Metro Airport at 5:47 p.m. Emily's flight begins boarding at 6:15. Emily Thompson is sobbing as she pulls off the helmet, and it's the ugly kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep in your soul. Not from fear, not from relief, but from experiencing something she'll spend the rest of her life trying to understand. A complete stranger risking his life, his job, his safety for her dreams. "I don't know how to thank you," she says, her voice breaking as airport security and travelers bustle around them. Marcus, soaked to the bone and shivering, looks like he's just been through a war. His hair is plastered to his head, his clothes are dripping, and there's road grime streaked across his face. But he's smiling, the kind of smile that comes from knowing you've done something right. "You don't need to thank me, just promise me something. Anything. 4 years from now, when you're graduating from Harvard Law School, send me a photo. That's all the thanks I need." Emily pulls out her phone with shaking hands. "Can I take a picture of you? I want to remember this moment forever." Marcus nods, and Emily snaps a quick photo of him standing next to his motorcycle. Water is dripping from his jacket, the airport terminal lights are reflecting off the wet pavement, and he looks exhausted but somehow heroic. She doesn't know it yet, but this photo is about to change both their lives forever. Emily grabs her backpack and starts running toward the terminal, then stops and turns back. "Marcus, yeah, I'm going to make this count. I promise you, I'm going to make this count." And then she's gone, disappearing into the airport to chase her dreams on a plane ticket paid for by her parents' sacrifices and delivered by a stranger's kindness. Marcus rides back through the storm to his delivery company's office, already knowing exactly what's waiting for him. David Miller is standing in the doorway with his arms crossed, a pink slip in his hand, and the kind of expression that suggests he's been practicing this conversation. "You're done, Johnson. Turn in your bike, your delivery bag, your company phone, and get the hell out of my sight." "I understand," Marcus says, his voice steady despite everything. "Do you really understand what you just did? Because I don't think you understand that this is the real world, not some feel-good movie where good deeds magically pay the rent. You just threw away a steady job, the only job you've had for 5 years, for some girl you met on the street." Marcus hands over his delivery equipment without arguing, without defending himself, without explaining. David Miller wouldn't understand if he tried. Some people see a stranger in need and think about liability. Others see a stranger in need and think about opportunity. Marcus just lost his job, his income, and his only means of transportation, all for someone he knew for exactly 3 hours and 17 minutes. He walks home through the storm, 12 miles through flooded streets and neighborhoods that get progressively poorer with each step, and arrives at his tiny rented room after midnight, soaked to the bone and utterly exhausted. Dorothy is waiting up for him in her worn armchair, wrapped in the quilt she's been patching and repatching for 15 years. She takes one look at her son and knows something major has happened. "Marcus, baby, where have you been? I was worried sick." He tells her everything. About finding the Thompson family in the rain, about Emily and her Harvard scholarship, about the ride through the storm, about losing his job. Dorothy listens without judgment, the way she's been listening to her son's stories for 30 years. When he finishes, she takes his cold hands in hers. "Son, you did the right thing." "Did I, Mom? We needed that job. I don't know how we're going to pay rent next month." "We'll figure it out," Dorothy says firmly. "We always do." "But Marcus, look at me." He meets her eyes. "You could have walked away today. You could have driven past that family and finished your deliveries and kept your job and your motorcycle and your steady paycheck. But you didn't. You saw someone who needed help, and you helped them. That's who you are. That's who I raised you to be. What if it was a mistake, baby?" "The only mistake would have been driving away." The next morning, Marcus starts pounding the pavement with the kind of determination that comes from having no other choice. Without a motorcycle, his job options are severely limited, but he applies everywhere that will take him. McDonald's, Burger King, Target, Home Depot, 3 different construction companies. Most places won't even look at his application when they find out he doesn't have reliable transportation. "How are you going to get to work?" they ask. "The bus doesn't run out here. You need a car for this position." "Sorry, we need someone who can work flexible hours, By evening, Marcus has filled out 17 applications and gotten exactly 2 callbacks for interviews the next day. The prospects aren't great, but there's something. He walks home again. The buses don't run frequently enough to be practical, and he's trying to save every penny, and spends the evening helping Dorothy with her physical therapy exercises and trying not to think about how quickly their small savings will disappear without his income. Marcus reports to Miller Construction at 6 a.m. sharp. The job is basic labor, hauling concrete blocks, mixing cement, cleaning up job sites, and the pay is almost 40% less than what he was making as a delivery driver. But it's honest work, and honest work is better than no work. His new supervisor, Tom Miller, is a decent guy who doesn't ask too many questions about why a 30-year-old man is taking an entry-level construction job. You show up on time, work hard, and don't cause drama, we'll get along fine, Tom says. Marcus throws himself into the physical labor, partly because he needs the job and partly because the hard work helps him not think about Emily, about whether she made it to orientation, about whether his sacrifice actually meant anything. At 8:47 a.m., Emily Thompson posts a photo on Instagram. Marcus doesn't know this yet. He's loading wheelbarrows with concrete and trying to figure out how to make $12 an hour stretch to cover rent, groceries, his mother's medications, and basic survival. But Emily's Instagram post is about to change everything. The photo is the one she took of Marcus at the airport. This rain-soaked guy standing next to a beat-up motorcycle, looking exhausted but somehow noble. The caption reads, "3 days ago this man changed my life forever. When every taxi, every rideshare, every bus was shut down because of flooding, Marcus Johnson risked his life to drive me 40 miles through a storm on his motorcycle so I could make it to Harvard. He lost his job for helping me. He didn't know me from anyone, didn't owe me anything, but he saw a stranger in need and chose to help. I'm sitting in my Harvard dorm room right now writing this post because of this hero. I don't know if I'll ever see him again, but I want the world to know that there are still people like Marcus Johnson out there. The world needs more people like Marcus Johnson. #motorcycle, hero #real, hero #Harvard 2025 never forget Detroit, strong." Emily has 847 followers on Instagram. The post gets 23 likes and 4 comments in the first hour. Then something magical starts to happen. By noon, Emily's post has 500 likes and 50 shares. One of her Harvard classmates reposts it on her Instagram story. A few people tag their friends. It's the kind of modest viral momentum that happens when people see something that makes them feel good about humanity. But at 2:30 p.m. something happens that turns a sweet local story into a national phenomenon. Sarah Mitchell, who worked with Marcus at the delivery company, sees the post through a friend of a friend share. She recognizes Marcus immediately and adds a comment that changes everything. "OMG, I know Marcus Johnson, he used to work at my company, he got fired for helping this girl. He's been taking care of his sick mother for 12 years after giving up his own college scholarship to stay home and care for her. This man is a real-life angel and has been struggling for years. He deserves so much better. #justice for Marcus." That comment gets screenshot within minutes. Suddenly Marcus's story isn't just about one good deed, it's about a man who has spent his entire adult life sacrificing for others. It's about lost opportunities and quiet heroism and the kind of person who chooses helping a stranger over keeping his job. By 4 p.m., the post has 10,000 likes and 1,000 shares across multiple platforms. People are digging into the comments, learning more about Marcus's background, sharing their own stories of sacrifice and kindness. Jennifer Walsh, a lifestyle blogger with 2.8 million followers across all platforms, sees the story around 5 p.m. and knows immediately that she's looking at something special. She spends the next 3 hours researching everything she can find about Marcus Johnson, Emily Thompson, and their incredible story. At 8 p.m. she publishes a blog post titled "The Motorcycle Hero Who Gave Up Everything for a Stranger's Dream." Jennifer Walsh's article is a masterpiece of viral storytelling. She's managed to track down additional details about Marcus's background, interview Emily over the phone, and even get quotes from some of Marcus's former co-workers. The piece tells the complete story, from Marcus giving up his college scholarship 12 years ago to care for his mother, to his years of quiet struggle as a delivery driver, to his split-second decision to help a stranger in the rain. The article includes the photo Emily took, but also paints a picture with words that makes readers feel like they were there in the rain, witnessing this moment of pure human goodness. Within 2 hours the article has been shared 50,000 times on Facebook. By midnight it's trending on Twitter with #motorcycle hero. TikTok users start creating tribute videos. The story spreads to Reddit, where it gets 100,000 upvotes in 6 hours. Marcus meanwhile is sound asleep after his first day of construction work, completely unaware that his life is about to change forever. Marcus wakes up on day 4 to his phone ringing, and ringing, and ringing. The first call is from a number he doesn't recognize, then another, then another. By the time he's fully awake he has 47 missed calls, 200 plus text messages and social media notifications that have crashed his phone's messaging app. Mom, he calls out, panic creeping into his voice. Something's wrong with my phone. Dorothy shuffles into his room in her robe and slippers, takes one look at his phone and starts laughing. Nothing's wrong, baby, I think you're famous. She shows him her own phone, which has been buzzing all night with calls from reporters, distant relatives who haven't talked to them in years, and complete strangers wanting to help. Marcus opens Instagram for the first time in months and sees that Emily's post about him has been viewed over 2 million times. His name is trending on Twitter. There are TikTok videos about him that have millions of views. Jennifer Walsh's article has been shared so widely that major news outlets are picking up the story. I don't understand, Marcus says, scrolling through thousands of comments from people all over the world praising him, sharing their own stories, offering help and support. The phone rings again. This time it's someone from Good Morning America. The next few hours are a complete blur of phone calls that Marcus never imagined he'd receive. Call #1, David Miller, his former boss. Marcus, I made a huge mistake. Come back to work. I'll give you a raise, buy you a new motorcycle, whatever you want. People are calling the company non-stop and not in a good way. Please, I'm begging you. Thanks but no thanks, Dave. Call #2, CNN. They want to interview him for their evening broadcast. Call #3, The Ellen DeGeneres Show. They want to fly him to Los Angeles. Call #4, a woman from Arizona who wants to donate $500 to help him and his mother. Call #5, the Detroit Free Press wanting to do a feature story. Call #620, various job offers from companies who have seen his story and want to hire him. But it's call #21 that changes everything. Is this Marcus Johnson? Yes sir, this is William Harrison. I own Harrison Real Estate Development here in Detroit. I've been following your story since yesterday and I'd like to meet with you if possible. Are you available this afternoon? Marcus recognizes the name immediately. Harrison is one of Detroit's most successful developers, worth somewhere around $200 million. Can I ask what this is about? It's about giving you a chance to help a lot more people than just Emily Thompson. At 2 p.m., William Harrison himself, not an assistant, not a secretary, but the actual billionaire, shows up at Marcus's construction site in a black Mercedes S-Class that probably costs more than most people make in 2 years. Marcus is on his lunch break, sitting on a concrete block and eating a sandwich Dorothy packed for him, when his supervisor Tom Miller approaches with a confused look on his face. Marcus, there's a guy here to see you. Says his name is Harrison. The conversation that follows will be burned into Marcus's memory for the rest of his life. William Harrison is 67 years old, impeccably dressed, and has the kind of presence that comes from decades of making decisions that affect thousands of people. But when he talks to Marcus, there's no condescension, no corporate speak, just one human being talking to another. Son, I've been following your story for the past 24 hours, Harrison begins. 43 years ago, I was a poor kid from Detroit's South Side. My family couldn't afford to send me to college, even though I had decent grades. A stranger, a businessman whose name I never even learned, saw me working at a gas station and offered to pay my first year's tuition at Wayne State. That stranger changed my life completely. Harrison explains that he spent the last 20 years looking for the right person to head up the charitable arm of his company. Someone who understands what it means to sacrifice for others, someone who has been where the people they'll be helping are now. I've interviewed dozens of candidates with impressive resumes and advanced degrees, but none of them had what you showed 3 days ago when you chose to help Emily Thompson. You risked everything for a stranger's dreams. That's not something you can teach in business school. The job Harrison is offering comes with a starting salary of $85,000 a year, full health benefits for both Marcus and his mother, and a budget of over $2 million annually to help families like the Thompsons. Why me? Marcus asks, still not quite believing this is real. Because you understand what it means to need help and what it means to help others. Because when you had to choose between your own security and someone else's dreams, you chose their dreams. And because I have a feeling that what happened with Emily is just the beginning for you. But Harrison isn't finished. He hands Marcus 2 envelopes. The first contains the deed to a 3-bedroom house in a safe neighborhood, fully paid for. For you and your mother, she's earned the right to have a garden. The second contains the keys to a brand new Honda CBR motorcycle. For all the roads ahead. Marcus is speechless. 3 days ago he was a struggling delivery driver worried about paying rent. Now he's being offered a dream job, a house, and a new motorcycle by one of Detroit's most successful businessmen. There's one more thing, Harrison says. The motorcycle community has started a fundraising campaign for you and your mother. They've raised $150,000 so far. I want you to use that money to start a scholarship fund for kids like Emily, kids who have the drive to succeed but not the resources to make it happen. The next few weeks are absolutely surreal for Marcus and Dorothy. Good Morning America flies Marcus to New York for a live interview that gets 15 million viewers. His segment trends on YouTube for 3 days. The host cries during the interview when Marcus talks about his mother's sacrifices and his decision to give up college. Ellen DeGeneres has him on her show, where she surprises him with an additional $50,000 donation to his scholarship fund and announces that Walmart is donating another $100,000. The audience gives him a 5-minute standing ovation. The motorcycle community doesn't just donate money, they organize ride events across the country to raise awareness for what they're calling Marcus Johnson Day. Thousands of bikers participate in rides in dozens of cities, all wearing t-shirts with Marcus's photo and the hashtag #RideForMarcus. Dorothy gets the heart surgery she's needed for years, performed by the best cardiac surgeon in Detroit. The entire procedure is covered by the fundraiser, and for the first time in over a decade she's completely pain-free and healthy. Marcus starts his new job at the Harrison Foundation, where his first project is establishing the Marcus Johnson Scholarship Fund. Within 6 months the fund has grown to over $800,000, supported by donations from all 50 states and 12 foreign countries. But perhaps the most meaningful moment comes when Marcus gets a text from Emily 3 months after that rainy day. Just aced my first semester finals. Dean's List. None of this would have happened without you. I think about what you did for me every single day. Still can't believe this is real life. Neither can Marcus. Over the next year, Marcus personally reviews applications from over 400 students across Michigan. Each application tells a story of potential trapped by circumstances, kids whose parents work multiple jobs but still can't afford college, students who excel academically but have no way to pay for tuition, young people whose dreams are just as big as their obstacles. Marcus doesn't just approve scholarship recipients, he meets them personally. He rides his Honda CBR to their schools, their homes, their neighborhoods. He sees himself in every application, remembers what it felt like to have dreams that seemed impossible. 5 years after that rainy Tuesday that changed everything, Marcus Johnson is 35 years old and the executive director of the Harrison Foundation, one of the largest charitable organizations in Michigan. The foundation has evolved far beyond what anyone imagined, helping over 500 students attend college, providing transportation assistance to hundreds of low-income workers, and establishing community programs in 12 different cities. But the most incredible part of this story isn't what happened to Marcus, it's what happened to Emily. Emily Thompson graduated from Harvard Law School as valedictorian, the top student in her class at one of the most prestigious law schools in America. She had job offers from major firms in New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C., positions that would have paid her more money than her parents made in 10 years combined. She turned them all down to return to Detroit. At 23 years old, Emily Thompson successfully ran for mayor of Riverside, the same impoverished neighborhood where Marcus found her family standing in the rain 5 years earlier. Her campaign was based on a simple promise: if one stranger's kindness can change a life, imagine what an entire community's kindness can accomplish. She won the election by the largest margin in the city's history. She's the youngest mayor in Detroit's 300-year history. Emily's mayoral inauguration takes place on a crisp October morning in downtown Detroit. The ceremony is held at the riverfront, with the Renaissance Center gleaming in the background and hundreds of people gathered to witness history being made. Marcus sits in the front row with Dorothy, both of them dressed in their best clothes, both of them crying before Emily even starts speaking. When Emily steps up to the podium, she looks out at the crowd and sees Marcus immediately. For just a moment, she's 18 years old again, standing in the rain with her Harvard acceptance letter, watching a stranger on a motorcycle change her life forever. 5 years ago, she begins, her voice strong and clear, I was an 18-year-old girl whose dreams were about to die in a rainstorm. Every door had closed, every option had been exhausted, every hope had been dashed by circumstances beyond my control. I was standing in front of my family's house with everything I owned packed in suitcases, knowing that my chance at college, my one shot at a different life, was slipping away with every drop of rain. The crowd is completely silent, hanging on every word. And then a stranger on a motorcycle pulled over and asked if we needed help. A man who had every reason to keep driving, who had his own problems and his own struggles, who owed me nothing and had everything to lose, made a choice that day. Marcus Johnson chose to risk his job, his safety, and his life to drive me 40 miles through a storm so I could make it to Harvard. Emily pauses, looking directly at Marcus. Marcus didn't just give me a ride to the airport that day. He showed me what it means to put someone else's future ahead of your own comfort. He taught me that sometimes the most important thing you can do is help a stranger when nobody's watching and nobody will ever thank you for it. He proved to me that there are still people in this world who believe that someone else's dreams matter as much as their own convenience. The applause is thunderous, but Emily isn't finished. Marcus Johnson sacrificed his job for my education. He risked his life for my dreams. And in doing so, he didn't just change my life, he changed the lives of hundreds of other young people who have benefited from the scholarship program that grew out of his story. He showed all of us what real heroism looks like. Emily's voice breaks slightly with emotion. As your mayor, I promise to govern with the same spirit of selfless service that Marcus showed me on that rainy Tuesday. I promise to remember that leadership means putting your community's needs ahead of your own comfort. And I promise that my first act as mayor will be to expand the Marcus Johnson Scholarship Program citywide and to create a transportation assistance program for low-income workers who need reliable vehicles to get to their jobs. The crowd erupts in applause that lasts for over 2 minutes. After the ceremony, Marcus and Emily meet privately in a small room at the venue. Emily has changed out of her formal mayor's attire and into jeans and a Harvard Law sweatshirt. She looks like the college student she still is in some ways, except now she's responsible for governing a city of 60,000 people. Can I ask you something I've always wondered about? Emily says. Anything. Do you ever regret it, that decision you made in the rain? Marcus thinks for a moment, looking out the window at his Honda CBR parked in the lot outside. You know what's funny? I spent 12 years thinking my life was about surviving. Getting through each day, paying the bills, taking care of mom. Just making it from one week to the next. And now I realize that helping you that day wasn't the beginning of my real life. It was the moment I remembered who I was supposed to be all along. I had just forgotten for a while. Emily hugs him tightly. Thank you, Marcus, for everything, for the ride, for the scholarship program, for showing me what service really means. Thank you for posting that photo, Marcus says with a laugh. You know what the crazy part is? What? I almost didn't post it. I thought maybe it was too personal, too private. I'm so glad I did. Me too. Although I still can't believe it all happened in 3 days. Emily grins. The best stories always do. Marcus Johnson had that moment on a rainy Tuesday in Detroit, and he chose right. He didn't know that helping one stranger would change thousands of lives. He didn't know his story would inspire motorcycle riders across America to start charity rides in their own communities. He didn't know that one photo would transform him from a struggling delivery driver into the leader of a multi-million-dollar foundation that helps hundreds of people every year. He just knew that a young woman needed help, and he was in a position to provide it.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons.
Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.